Oh, here comes the sun. Do-do-do-do. Welcome to this week's video. My name is Sam McCurchin and this is SCFSU's first flip behind me. We have no idea what we're doing, but we just finished our driveway and sidewalk. For those of you tuning in for the first time, we usually go over the price of everything. I'm not going to do that in today's video because this is included with our entire hardscaping cost, so we're going to do that in a future video. If you're a new viewer, make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell. For everybody else, hit that thumbs up button to show us the support on this video. So let's get right into it. The sidewalk is a pain in the ass. Figuring out how to do this entire sidewalk, gutter, curb, apron, all this stuff was very, very difficult until we went through the process and realized how easy and intuitive and blah, blah, blah it was. As Eddie would probably like to say, it's because this is all handled by the engineering department, and engineering people are very functional. They're very tuned in, and they basically know what they want, and they're very clear on their directions. So we had a couple of things that we learned along this way. I'll start with the first one, which is one of the biggest pain points and was one of the biggest problems for us, is finding a C8 licensed contractor. I think that was the license that they required. That is something that a lot of subs will tell you. You do not need a C8. You could do the work yourself. You definitely want to hire people that are licensed and insured, but you do not need a C8 license to do this. And if you do need it, nobody really checks. So in my opinion, you don't need it. So as you can see, we're already finishing up the driveway, but there was a big demo process that went on here and a couple of stages before then. So the initial stage, they came out with a Bobcat and they demoed everything. Now, before you get to the demo, you want to have your inspector come out and tell you what parts they want demoed. And then they're gonna come back later again and change what they want to demo and add a few things, remove a few things, but it's just part of the game. So once we demoed everything, we compacted the dirt, the city came out, they inspected the compacted dirt, and from there we added the base. Now the base is added again. You want 3 to 4 inches of base and you want to compact that base as well. Then the inspector is going to come back out, make sure everything's compacted, your forms are set right, everything is correct, and he's going to give you the green light to pour. Unfortunately, we missed the original starting of the pour, but we got some footage of that. So we'll show you guys that because the pour to me is one of the most interesting processes, as well as the smoothing out and texturing of all this. And over here, I think we have 3 different textures, so we'll show you guys that as well. There's some terminology here that you guys are gonna have to know because I'm gonna use it, and honestly, 2 weeks ago I had no idea what this terminology was. We're gonna start from the street side and go all the way towards the house. So starting from the street, you have the asphalt. Coming towards the house, you have then the gutter, and that's where the water is going to go through for drainage, rain, blah, blah, blah. The gutter is connected to the curb. The curb is connected to your driveway / apron. And then you have the sidewalk, obviously, which I think you guys know what that section is. Where I'm standing right now, this is called a parkway. All that being said, let's talk about the issues that we faced and the things that I've learned. So right here is a cast iron 4-inch drain pipe. Pipe goes from the house drains, the barrels, and all those things straight directly through the curb into the rain gutters. Now, this cannot be any way that you want. It's very, very specific. You have to check your plans. You're either gonna have a 3-inch or 4-inch pipe that comes out, and you can only use cast iron or schedule 80 PVC. You cannot use schedule 40 PVC, which is what the remainder of the house will probably be using. If you do use that, the inspector is gonna have you tear it completely out and redo it. You want this cast iron to be 1 or 1.5 inches from the bottom, and I believe 2 inches from the top, which leaves you exactly 4 inches to put in the pipe, as well as cut back 1 inch from the actual end of the curb. So we've preset this in here, and then we're just gonna open it up from the other side once we remove the forms, and then we can connect the PVC schedule 40 for the remaining amount to the rest of the house. Depending on the size of your curb is how big your drain pipe is going to be. So if you have a 6-inch curb, you're gonna have a 3-inch drain pipe. If you have a 8-inch curb, you're gonna have a 4-inch drain pipe. There are a few important tools when doing the concrete driveway sidewalk. There's obviously the concrete finishing tools. One of the main ones needed during the preliminary phase of framing out the sidewalk is a level. But not just any level, a level that has an electronic degree reader. And I'm gonna show you guys why you need this right now, because there's specific requirements for how big of a slope you can and cannot have in certain areas of the concrete. Fortunately, we have a very long apron, allows us to not have a problem with the slopage here. The maximum slope you can have from the sidewalk to the rain gutter is 10%. If your slope ends up being more than that, then they will not let you pour, or they'll make you demo everything that you have poured. So over here, we have about 2.8% slope, and this is on the top portion. And on the bottom portion over there, if you check, I believe it was somewhere around 6 to 7% slope. And the way you do that is by placing your level and then reading the digital readout percentage on here, and it tells you which side is higher and which side is lower. As far as the sidewalk goes, the slopage is a little bit different. You may also be wondering why we had to demo these last 2 squares over here, because these were perfectly fine. It all comes down to the slope and the requirements by the city. When we check the slope, we have 3 to 3.1% depending on how much dirt is on which side. Slope from this side to this side can be a maximum of 2%, and there's required to be a slope for the rainwater. So what the inspectors usually recommend is that you shoot for a 1.5. That way you land between 1.5 and 2. When this is poured, a lot of the times they'll push this up to get the slope, and sometimes they push too much. So that gives you enough wiggle room to work that out. Now, that being said, if we have 3% here and we run this at 1.5%, you're gonna have a little curb here, and you don't want that. So what they do is they make you extend out 5 feet from where you're actually supposed to repair or replace, and they tell you to work backwards in that 5 feet span. And that's why we ended up doing these extra 1 or 2 cuts, is to get from 3% to 1.5, which is what we have for the rest of the sidewalk. If you guys look at the sidewalk from further away, you can tell that at the end of our apron towards the middle of the house, there is sort of a down spot, and the reason for that is because of the level of both sides of the house and the slopes that we had to achieve. When you're working with old construction and existing things, you kind of have to adjust. So they're removing the remainder of the forms. They remove the forms slowly depending on the dry pattern of the concrete. They want to make sure it's firm and in shape, and then they remove the forms and then slowly shape the finishes and perfect everything else. And as you can see, they're pulling out the forms for the curb right now because they've kind of finished texturing and finishing the driveway. As you guys have probably noticed, the lighting has constantly been changing today, and we've been shooting this over the course of maybe 2 hours. The lighting changing is both terrible for the production of the video and the production of the concrete. When the sun comes out, it quickens the drying process of the concrete, which shortens the time period that they can finish it. And going back and forth, so they're keeping up with it. It's also problematic here because we have 3 different finishes here. Starting from the sidewalk, we have the simplest finish, which is the broom finish. As you guys can see, I did a great, amazing, perfect job of doing the broom finish myself. That's why I said it's the easiest. From there, if we move on to the apron, we have a much more rougher textured finish. The rougher textured finish is used for the tires, so they could pull up your car into your driveway. It's just adding traction. From there, we'll move to the curb and the gutter. Now the curb is done in a smooth finish, and it goes about 2 to 3 inches into the rain gutter, which is where it's also smooth on the corner. And from there, again, it's the same run finish that we're using on the apron. That's 3 finishes that we're using here. Our 4th finish that we're going to be using on this project is an acid wash finish. But if you guys want to see that, you're gonna have to subscribe and hit that notification bell, because we're gonna upload that video next week or the following week once we're done with all the hardscaping inside the house. Let's talk about our driveway apron, the size, and what went on here. As you guys saw in a previous video, and if you haven't, I'll link it up here so you guys can go watch it. We had to move our water meter for the driveway, and we had to upgrade our water meter for the fire sprinklers. So we combined that two and moved and upgraded the water meter at the same time. Now your water meter has to be 10 feet away from the bottom of your apron. The bottom of your apron is right over here. This is the bottom of the apron, is the low point, and that's the high point, the beginning of the apron. So you want to be 10 feet away from that. That's the minimum. As far as the size of your driveway, it's already drawn up in your plans. And when you go to the city to get your 8 permit in order to do this, they'll ask you to re-specify the sizes. Since we had a 16-foot garage door, we wanted a 16-foot driveway apron. So that's what we ended up doing. So we have 16 feet at the base, and then we have 4 feet on each side, which is the upslope. And then at the top of it, it ends up being the same 16 feet, I believe. I'm a little bit confused about this whole process, but we have our final inspection on Tuesday, so if there's anything that we messed up, they'll let us know about that. Whenever your inspector comes out for your initial inspection, you want to make sure to ask him all these questions and make sure that everything you're doing is in accordance with his guidelines and specifications and the codes. This way you don't face any more issues when you're trying to get final. That's it for this week's video. Thank you guys for tuning in. We really appreciate your support. Make sure you guys are subscribed and hit that notification bell. Thumbs up button is always highly appreciated. Share this video with your friends and follow us on Instagram. All that fun stuff. Today was a very hectic day. If I didn't go over any information or I skipped out on something or I wasn't clear about something, let me know in the comments below. We learned a lot throughout this entire driveway apron process, and I'd love to share that information with you guys because we were not able to find any information online about it, and it was really confusing and a lot of headache. Eddie is still recovering from his back injury, so wish him well in the comments down below, and we'll see you guys next week.